Hello and welcome back, everybody, to episode 287 of the DanJohnUniversity.com podcast. I'm Dan John, and each and every week I sit down here and answer your questions. As always, if you have questions, I'm always amazed in the comments when someone asks, how do I ask a question of the podcast? Because I say this both at the beginning and end of every podcast, but here we go. If you have questions, please send them to podcast@DanJohnUniversity.com. I'm more than happy to answer questions. We've got a real interesting mix again. You know, last week we had a whole bunch of armor building formula questions and mass made simple questions. And I'm starting to notice for some reason that the questions start to circle around the same basic topics every week. And it's always a couple of different topics. But let's get started. We got a question from either Reese or Riez, depending on where you're from. I have a question that revolves around teaching the barbell lifts to over 60s, especially my mother. First off, I got to tell you this from the heart, and all of you listening, I think this is cool. I think the fact that somebody's mom who's over 60, a young woman, just barely 60, wants to lift weights. I've trained a lot of women on the barbell, and I got to tell you, it is life-changing, and I don't care how old you are. I was very proud to train my own daughters. Of course, I trained a number of women in my life and a number of women as clients. And I just think the benefits are just outstanding. Far better than a lot of that junk cardio that a lot of people fall into, both male and female. Over the past few months, I have been getting my mom up and running her at the gym, putting together a basic program, push, pull, hinge, squat, loaded carry, sounds familiar, ? And giving her a run through of all the machines, weights, and devices at the gym. She recently expressed an interest in learning the barbell movements, which I'm more than happy to introduce as a fan myself. Anyways, do you have any advice on how to introduce someone safely into this, specifically the squat and the deadlift? But any advice in the presses would be much appreciated as well. Well, this is great. Women lifters over 60. I like it. Equipment-wise, there's a couple of issues I want to deal with first. First, one thing I'm really happy is that it's become really common. I have one in my gym. In fact, I've had two over the past few years, and I donated one. The 15-kilo bar with the smaller grip, the smaller knurling. I like it a lot. So one thing, equipment-wise, I'd like you to at least look into is making sure you have the 15-kilo bar. For my American audience, we're looking at 33 pounds. And it's a great bar. In fact, a lot of times when I use that bar, it really spins better than my 20K bars, my 45 pound bars. So that'd be the number one. The second issue is with, if you do decide to use squat racks and bench presses, it's better now, pardon me, but a lot of the bench presses are still too wide and too high for a lot of female athletes. So now we can fix the too high thing by stacking up blocks or stacking up, 20-kilo bumper plates or whatever. But I do wish we would outfit more gyms with more appropriate benches. Now, if you've ever benched on a wide bench, when I was young, we used to take bricks, shows my age, bricks, and then we take paneling, those big thick panels, and then put the panels on the bricks, and then your friends would pick the barbell up and you would bench press, and if the bricks were high enough, you didn't hit your elbows on the ground, but the planks were too wide, so we got these huge, of course they were also unpadded, these huge cuts in our back. Not the good kind of bodybuilding cut, but the bad kind of, like a knife attack cut. For a lot of women, benches are too wide for them to naturally move their shoulders through. And they're too high, so they can't get a good foot plant on the ground. Squat racks, you'll notice that squat racks sometimes don't really have good options for shorter lifters. And there's sometimes not enough spaces between the pins, if you will, however your system is set up, as you get a little bit shorter. So those are two issues that I would look into just for safety purposes. Benches too wide and too high, and squat racks or any kind of rack that just doesn't fit the lifter. From there, personally, I would start with picking the weight up off the floor. I mean, I just think that's a good place to start. Everyone will be shocked at how strong she can get, how quickly. Just good old-fashioned deadlifts. As the great lifter Ed Cohen said to a lifter while standing next to him, make sure they drive their sternum to the ceiling. I love that line. But start with deadlifts. There is an issue on the back squat, as anybody who's ever trained, really anybody, is that the bar does press down and it does hurt, especially somebody who, like I never really back squatted, but when I did, I never had a problem because as an Olympic lifter, you get those big traps, and those big traps, are nice little artificial cushions on the bar. So as you move from the deadlift on the ground to the squat, there is going to be that transition. Now, fortunately, we live in a time where we have all kinds of fun equipment to overcome that. I used to use Dave Draper's True Squat at the old gym a lot because it turned the back squat into a bit of a front squat. I like that. There's all kinds of pads you can put on the bars. Some of them have great names. I think one's called the Manta Ray, if they still make it. Then there's, of course, those really cool safety squat ones. But, so we start deadlift. You're not going to have a lot of issues there. Move to the squat. There'll be a few issues. And then if you want to move it and stay in this powerlifting big three, move to the bench press. And there will be a lot of issues there. And the first one is that, and I just need to pick up my copy. It's upstairs, of Heidegger's Physiology of Strength, American edition, English edition, 1961, from the German translations from the Max Planck Institute. And I'm sure you're all familiar with this already. But women can get very strong. And he did these series of concentric circles where this area here around the hips and thighs, women can be 80% as strong as men. But as you move outwards in those concentric circles, there is a drop off. And there is going to be some really strange soreness. And anyone's ever not benched in a while and then benched, you all know what I'm about to touch. That thing right there. Whatever this little, I'm sure there's a Star Trek episode somewhere about this nexus of pain that you get when someone takes their fingers and stabs you after you haven't bench pressed for a while, right? In fact, I'm still right there. I think something, if you can get her to deadlift, back squat, military press, the overhead press, I think is actually another natural, and bench press. Sliding into a kind of a very simple program like Jim Wendler's 531, I think really is a good idea. I've done it 4 days a week. That's where you do bench one day, military, then, bench one day, squat the next day, military, deadlift. There's your 4 days. At the school, we used to do bench and squat together, deadlift and military together. And then, of course, the program I liked best was bigger but boring. But there's a whole bunch of other ones. But something that simple is a great way to introduce somebody to the barbell. I know there's other strength programs out there, but the thing about Wendler's program, and I think my brother Gary's been on it now, I want to say 8 years, but it might be longer. And when Gary is 8 years older than I am, so he's 76 on his birthday this year. He's been doing Jim Wendler's 531 for a long time. Every fourth week is a deload week. And I'm to the point now that I think that is the most important week in the program. The deload, you go in, you take really, really kind of light weights with fairly light, really reasonable reps, but you practice the movements without the fear or strain. I don't know if for programs, that's pretty good. I also like the work of Stefan Kort, that is Stefankorte. He's, of course, where we got the 3x3x3x3 system. I still think it's brilliant. You do the 3 basic lifts, 3 sets of 3 days a week. When she adapts to that, you go to 4 days a week. When she adapts to that, you go 5 days a week. 3 sets of 3 stays the whole time. And you slowly move up your loads over a long time. Again, quoting Ed Cohen, but I'm also quoting Marty Gallagher. I'm also quoting Tommy Kono. Anybody who's been successful for a long time in the platform will tell you, don't miss in training. Ed said something interesting, very much what Marty believes. If you miss a lift in training, there's something wrong with your entire program. And I thought, well, when the greatest powerlifter of all time says something, you should really, you might want to listen. I've been pushing clean and presses for years. This last week in an article in Business Insider, a guy by the name of Arnold Schwarzenegger said, if all you could do was clean and press, that's all you need. And I thought to myself, yeah, I've been saying that since I was 14. He says it this week, and now it's truth. Hey, hats off to Arnold, and I have no issues with that. But when you listen to the best and brightest, you might want to pay a little bit of attention. I don't know if she ever wants to learn the Olympic lifts, but I tell you, if you do those big four of Jim Wendler, military, bench, squat, and deadlift, you're going to get all the benefits. And I'm also going to add this too. For issues of aging, and hey man, I'm 68, but for bone density, there's nothing better than lifting. For keeping, whatever you want to call, but just pure lean body mass, the opposite of everything that's happening to you. Lifting weights is the best thing to do. And if you can combine lifting weights with a walk after, we got to take you right back to cabaret, because folks, that's money, 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 money. It is a great idea, and I like it. And all my listeners need to listen to this. What a great gift to give to your mother or father, the gift of weightlifting and fitness. We can never predict, no matter how many millions of dollars you put into your attempts to live forever. We never know when the angel of death is going to tap you on the shoulder. But I tell you one thing, from what I know and from what I've seen, lifting weights is the best investment you can do for a long, quality lifespan. Maybe the quantity, that's luck, that's DNA, that's catching something in time. But for quality, eat protein and lift weights. Great question. And give your mom a hug for me, okay? My mom died in 1980, and I got to tell you, it's a rare day. Something doesn't pop up to remind me of her. So for all of you who still have your parents, give them a call. And give them a call right now. All right. Thank you so much. Great question. Our next question is from Rob. And it's interesting because to me it ties in kind of closely. Now, there's not going to be a lot of podcasts that will talk about this question a lot, but it'll make sense as soon as I tell you what Rob asks. I'm having hip replacement surgery this month. I'm 61 years old. I've been lifting for almost 50 years. What did you do to get back into lifting after you were cleared by your doctor? Well, so I had to go through it twice. I was born with a condition called pistol grip hips. My hips were a problem when I was in high school football, but you never said anything because I thought it was normal for your hips to click. We would do this, hit the sled, and we'd drive. I'd stand up from that drill, get back in line, and I'd feel that click, click. Well, what was happening at the time was, of course, the click was, bone on bone. My poor daughter, Kelly, God bless her, I love her, but she's destined for this same thing. I have a niece who had her first hip surgery at 18 months. My brother has the condition in one side. My cousin has it. It's just DNA. Having said, oh, and by the way, and I don't care how famous you are as a weightlifter or fitness enthusiast, blaming my hip replacements on lifting is just a total lack of, any interest in the truth. But we live in an era where truth doesn't mean much anymore. The smartest thing you can do is going into the surgery, and boy, it's tough because you're in pain, or close to it anyway. I was in a lot of pain. And I'm going to ask you to be in good condition. But you also have that massive inflammation. There's a video of me the day after the evening of my total hip replacement when I'm walking. And you can see these massive red streaks down my face from all the inflammation. I was getting real issues throughout here with blood vessels breaking. It was I was in a lot of pain. But if you can, get in the best condition you can. Now, if I would redo all this, I would have probably fasted for 24 hours each week. I'd have upped my protein. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna tell you what I've done. I would have eaten a lot more fruit, and I've eaten a lot more protein going into the surgery. I also recommend, really, before the surgery, if you can, drinking a lot of sugar-free orange-flavored Metamucil, because I got to tell you, with all those painkillers, you got an issue coming up. As soon as you're cleared, or even before you're cleared, start working your upper body as much as you can. Remember, the body is one piece, so every overhead press you do, every machine curl, every machine tricep extension, every lat pull down on the machine, every row on the machine, it's pumping all that magic fluid, all those wonderful hormones and all that wonderful protein synthesis, all the amino acids, and all the magic is flowing through your whole body, not just your arms and back. Once you're cleared, I hope you have a mini band, because I found monster walks to be really helpful. You put the mini bands around your socks, and as you walk, you just drive your heels out. Walk backwards. If you can't really walk, hold on to something, okay? And just do gentle kicks out, by the way, both legs. So say you're getting the surgery on your right leg, do your best to, do a little bit of a right leg out, right leg forward, right leg back, then put that right leg down and do it with the left leg, because what you're going to find, that's why I like mini bands so much, is it reminds you that when you're doing an exercise pushing one leg with mini bands or glute loops, that's what I used to, you're getting the exercise. When we do those mini band, those right leg, like you're a speed skater, and then you go back and then you go forward. If you're just holding on to something very gently, you really quickly notice that the down leg gets as much work as the working leg. Mini bands. If you can get glute loops, or if you can handle the ripping the hair off with mini bands, put them just above your knees. Hip thrust and clamshells were money for me. And I got to tell you, I came up with a whole bunch of my programs. I do these programs, hip thrust and clamshell. I have one where I go 15, 15, 14, 14, all the way down to 1, 1. Sounds easy. Do it. Your glutes will scream. Another variation is you start from 25 and you do 10 clamshells every time. So you go 25, 20, 15, 10, 5. Always doing 10 clamshells. That's good stuff. If you can get up into the 6-point position, look into Tim Anderson's rocking. Tim set that material to me, and rocking is squatting with no load. It was a huge, huge help. And then, of course, the thing that does everything, walk as much as you can. I had my second hip replacement here in Utah, and so when I started to be able to walk, it was icy, and in a sense, in hindsight, I think that was kind of a good thing, because the ice made me. I'm always fairly safe. I always kind of think about things before I do them, because I don't want to be a statistic. But what was good about the ice is that by worrying about the hip, by worrying about the slipping, I took my time getting going. And then once I got onto the slush, onto the asphalt, the streets, I built up my confidence. And I was quickly up to, I still do it every day, a half an hour of walking. Folks, I think there's magic in a half an hour walking after every workout. I know I emphasize it in all my books, and I beat it to death with you good people, but I just think lifting weights and then a half hour walk is like stealing in the health, fitness, longevity world and body composition world. So that's what I would tell you. I know, when I was talking to Ozzy about this question, he said, there might not be a lot of mass appeal for this, but hey, Rob, and anybody else going through a total hip replacement, I'm always happy to help out there, because, it is, like my surgeon told me, he said, it's not surgery, it's carpentry. And he gave me a look at some of the tools he was about to use. I was flying high, so it didn't have a huge impact on me at the time. And it was, I mean, it's stuff you would buy at a hardware store, but it's a brutal surgery. And the nice thing is, I don't know of anything I've ever done in my life that had such instant impact on me. The first time I woke up, this is the first hip surgery back in Burlingame, and I remember looking at Tiffany and said, I just can't believe how good I feel. And she famously said, well, it's because you're stoned as, and then she added a word that starts with F. And I went, no, I feel good. Well, getting rid of all that, I mean, I don't even know what it would be. I mean, it's just hazardous waste material that builds up on this. You get that joint on joint after a while, all that inflammation. And it just instantly just went, and it felt great. Rob, I do want you to follow up, at least email the podcast and give me a update on how things are going. And if it's a good email, I'll get back to you, okay? Thank you. And great question, okay? This is a really quick answer, okay, on this next question. This next question comes from Sunny. And Sunny said this: I purchased your armor building formula book and was wondering how to do the progressions on the single kettlebell press after the second week. Should I just keep adding rounds in both the ABC and press? So I'm going to answer that question. All you need to do. So in the book, ABF, I give you a machine program, I give you a barbell program, the double kettlebell program, and then I uneven double kettlebell program, and then I give you the single. That's way too many programs for one book. So when in doubt, go to the double armor building formula part, because that has the formula, that has the program in it. And then the barbell, of course, is the adjustment I did for myself as an experiment, which I'm still doing and I love. And the single was because people kept asking for a single bell. So when in doubt, go in the other chapters in the book and see what you can find out. There's more. It seems that like the time would really be long, or could I increase intensity and cut rest times? Absolutely. That's the formula. How many rounds would you recommend before it's necessary to get a heavy bell? Well, okay, first off, if you can't, okay, it's over on my forum. It's over at danjohnuniversity.com. It's also on Reddit, and it's also on the Strong First forum, because I posted them there. And anybody who wants, feel free to post it anywhere else you'll like to. I wrote something called the Armor Building Formula Supplement, Sonny, and that has the answers to your questions, okay? Basically, when you should get a heavier bell, there's two ways to tackle it. Oh, and by the way, or if you don't want to do that, geez, I forgot about this. In this thing, you can get this at Amazon, the Kettlebell Workout Companion. It's weird. This is not me trying to cross-sell. I just was talking about it, and I looked down, it was right there. I've just done a podcast with Pat Flynn, and he asked me a question, and there we go. In here, we have the single kettlebell stuff, it answers the question. But in the single kettlebell area here, it explains all the workouts to you here on page 41. And then when we get over into the next page, it has some charts in it. These are also in the supplement that explains what to do when the load gets too heavy. The hard thing is that according to Boyd Epley anyway, you need to press the 16 kilo bell 15 times before you can move up to the 24. You need to press the 24 kilo bell 10 times before you can move up to 32, for example. So yes, you do need to increase your reps. And once you get comfortable, like if you were to do, all you have is a 16, and you were to do, 5 sets of 15 with the 16, 5 sets of 15 reps with the 16 kilo bell. Yeah, I think no question about it, you're ready for the 24 or the 20 or the 24. If you can do, 10 sets of 10 with the 24, you got to invest up and get the 28 or the 32 or the 36. Okay. Good question. It's one of those things where I think sometimes questions come in, they get stuck in our, we have a pretty good vat of questions right now, and it takes a little while to filter down. But I've already answered your question. It's in the Armor Building Formula Supplement, okay? Or support my grandchildren's education and buy the Kettlebell Workout Companion. Thanks so much. Kettlebell Workout Companion is available at Amazon. The Armor Building Formula is available at armorbuildingformula.com. Great question. Sonny, it's a good question, and it's something that's the hardest thing about strength and conditioning is that you really have to use the stuff between your ears sometimes to figure out progressions. And that is hard for a lot of us because, I'm always looking for the quick fix. I'm always looking for the secret. And the secret is, as I learned as a child from a story, the secret is there is no secret. So there you go. Next question, again, follows up exactly with that. Melvin has a question. In one of your podcasts, you mentioned gym machine workouts that complement easy strength for fat loss, and armor building formula as part of a longevity program. Could you list a couple of machine exercises that pair well with ES4FL and ABF? Okay. I got to thank you in a sense, Melvin, because, so I coach at the university over here, and a couple days a week we have this. It's right next to where I coach the throwers. It's a small. It's certainly not. It's not the athletes, weight room. It's kind of the gym of the school, and in there they have a lot of machines, and I go in there usually Tuesdays and Thursdays, and because I need to complement my training. Right now I'm doing the armor building formula, so let's review what I'm doing a lot of. I'm working my glutes pretty well, and I'm working my clean and press stuff, your magic clean and press movements, and I'm doing curls. Well, there's some gaps. So I go in and I do, so I think two of the best machines in most gyms I use. Some people hate the first one because it does something to your knees, but I love getting the pump in my quads. Leg extension and leg curl. There's another machine I use a lot, and it's the tricep extension. The reason I like tricep extension machines, I'm not saying that skull crushers and all of them are dangerous at all. I don't mean that at all. But for a lot of us who've spent a lot of time in the weight room, that position, if you've already wrecked your elbows doing pull-ups and chin-ups, it adds to more problems. I like tricep extension machines because I can squeeze at the top, because they tend to they get a little harder. And I do like them. Now you're saying, but Danny, you do all those presses. Right. But I still like to get literally just the pump of the tricep extension. And then any rowing machine or any lat pull down machine, I think has great value. I don't do any of these exercises for load. I literally just go to lactic acid burn. So I do one big set. I start off light, and I just take my time until I start to feel it start to heat up. I go heavier because it's easy, because all the pins are right there. The pin selector's right there. I go heavier. I go a little bit faster, and I start to really feel the quad heat up. I drop it down the third time, and that last set with the heavy load, I can just feel the heat getting in there. I think that I can't defend it with studies, and I can't defend it except for personal experience, that there is a value in getting the lactic acid burn with machines. There was a book years ago that said that was the way to do fat loss. I don't know if that's true. I do know this: if you're a 400-meter runner and the bear jumps on your back, you're gonna have to worry about your diet for days, because you're not gonna want to eat anything, and if you do, you're gonna throw it up, as I've said 100 times on this podcast. But it's a marvelous way to use machines. It is weird to get a pump and a lactic acid burn on like the lat pull down machine and the row. But I got to tell you, within a few minutes after I walk out of there, I just feel everything starts to clear itself up, and I just feel like I got taller. So that's what I do, Melvin. And I got to tell you, Melvin, that is a good question. I don't necessarily use the ab machine in there. I like the ab roller. the ab wheel. And I also like hanging bent knee leg raises. I think those are both superior. Suitcase carry is superior to that. I don't do the lower back machines because I do, I'm an Olympic lifter. And I don't like any machines that have a straight arm, like the straight arm flies or the back flies. I just don't like, I don't trust the stress in my joints on those. Your mileage may vary, but yeah, so let me just give you the ones I love. Leg extension, leg curl, tricep extension, lat pull down, and row. Really fun question, Melvin, and thank you so much. For those of you who are adding that to your ABF or Easy Strength for Fat Loss, don't think of it as a workout. Think of it as a way to get a little pump, okay? All right, thank you so much. Well, Art says something that's interesting here. He goes, first time, long time. That takes me back 20 years ago to call-in radio shows. I'm a 33-year-old man who, with 2 days a week to train and some unhappy joints and tendons. In your experience, what movements are best for beat-up former athletes that just want to maintain muscle mass as they enter middle age and have happy and mobile joints? Saw a quote about me, a quote I said somewhere online the other day. And I can't believe I said it because it's really good, but I said it, I guess. What part of aging makes you think you'll be more mobile? God, I like that. I read that and was like, damn, that's good. And I said that. Oh, that's great. So first, and this is an important little side thing, Art, is that first off, what part of aging do any of you think is going to help your joints? So I'm glad you're starting now. But he follows up with a really good question. Also, is there any recovery benefit to training higher rep zones in the 15 to 25 rep range? And I like that because in my book, The Armor Building Formula, I recommend those ranges. And I tell you, I got some pushback from people who said, oh, why would you recommend that? Well, I do because at the age I'm at 68, those higher reps keep the load way down and they feel good. And as I said just in the last question, they lead to that lactic acid production, the burn. Okay. Now, I don't chase the burn. I don't chase the pump, but it's a good reminder about what I'm doing. So I have a couple of ideas for you. If you come to my gym on Wednesdays, you're more than welcome. Mike Warren Brown leads me through what we call the TRX hypertrophy workout, a suspension trainer workout. And we do all kinds of high rep T's, Y's, I's, what we call them fat guy levers, we go like this, curls, tricep extensions, big stretches, big leans, the stony stretch, everything. It's a very simple workout. It takes a half an hour and the rep ranges are all high and we do a lot of stuff that, for me anyway, feels good. I don't feel it in my joints. I don't feel it in my, like that, whatever you want to call that, tendon and ligament soreness you get after a workout that, you kind of, like if you just picked up a ball and threw it really hard, that'd be the last time you ever threw a ball feeling. Yeah, I don't get that. So let me give you a couple ideas for exercises. We have an exercise system called Stonies. Stony is kind of it's a lunge position. And as you in the lunge position, you just nudge yourself down every set. So you step forward with your left foot and you do double kettlebell presses, okay? On each rep, as the weight comes down, you just drop yourself a little bit deeper. I like that a lot. You can also, if you can handle it, you can put that. So let's just say I still have my left foot put forward. You put that knee on the ground. If you have to use pads for half kneeling presses. Or you can walk to the front of your house or put a little box and just put your left foot on top of the box and do kind of so your left foot's in an elevated lunge position and you press from that position. I like that because while you're doing those presses, you're also getting a lot of, the word of the year in my field is activation, but you're getting a good stretch there. You're putting yourself in a compromised position and you're challenging your balance a little, but it's a good exercise. So lunging or half kneeling presses is a good one. I was thinking about any suspension trainer and literally anything you can do with suspension trainer. I wrote some notes down. That's what I'm looking at every time. But I have an exercise called the doorknob squat, where you grab a doorknob and then you kind of like you're a water skier, you lean away from it and you squat. Well, that's really natural to do with suspension trainers. Doing T's, Y's, I's, any kind of row, one-arm row with suspension trainers is great because you can instantly change the load by stepping closer or stepping farther back. And that's a boon, my friend. That is wonderful. In the hinge family, saving the joints is tough, but I'm a big fan of the rack deadlift. So you put the barbell, and I would suggest if your joints really are jacked, put them jacked for reference. Jacked in my field means two things. Jacked means, looking really good, but jacked also means broken. Why I always thought that was funny is when you play a collision sport, the guy who looks the most jacked coming into training camp is usually the person who's most jacked going out of it. The guy who looks good just always get broken. And it's funny because Bill Walsh, the great 49er coach, realized the same thing. It's one thing to look good on the beach. It's another thing to, be able to handle the rigors of, collision sports and collision occupations. But the rack deadlift is marvelous. You put the bar about an inch above where your knee, maybe two, and you just do pull deadlifts. I'll tell you one thing, you can really get some stupid load here. Now, if you're built like me, I was put on the earth to rack deadlift and quarter squat. If there was a world championships in quarter squatting and rack deadlifting, put my name on the list. I love those lifts, and they are, even though you have a lot of load, they're not that hard on the system because you're not really asking a huge range of motion. And the final one I put down was just loaded carries because I have to. But, can you do suitcase carries, one-arm farmer walks? Because I thought that was a good choice. For me, what I've noticed when people are a little bit beat up is doing any of the bear hug family. You can pick up a heavy backpack, a heavy bag, children, and you carry it like this for a walk. And I just find, even though it's really hard on you, it's not hard on you, if that makes sense. So those are my choices for there's my next DVD. Workouts for the beat up body, the lungy presses, that whole stony press family, all the suspension trainer work, the suspension trainer squats, the rack deadlift, and the suitcase carry. Try those and get back to me, okay? Thank you. We have a question from Ryan, and it kind of brings us back to last week, but it's a really simple answer as soon as I get through the whole thing. I'm just reading Mass Made Simple, have yet to actually do the program, and it reminded me of a program I followed in the late aughts by Randall Strawson, Super Squats. I knew Randy way before he became an author. He used to go to the Olympic lifting meets. I'm not sure if I ever saw him lift, but he was always at the meets. I might have just missed him because that used to happen a lot. Super Squats, which apparently had been around for years before I found it. I found obviously similarities in programs. Yeah. My question is, why do you think that the high rep back squat is such a mass builder? I can tell, Ryan, you haven't been doing them. And it is. I'm not arguing that. I just want your thoughts on why. Have you found any other exercises that you could focus a basic mass building program around? Because I hate high rep squats so very, very much. And guess what, Ryan? We all do. Now, I have a book called Easy Strength Omnibook, and I want you to buy it, Ryan, because I have a chapter or two on this. I call it Easy Hypertrophy or something. But so first off, I'm going to defend why the back squat high reps work so well. It's the time under tension. The first time I did 50 reps in the back squat with 225, weighing about 204, I probably took 4 or 5 minutes easy to do it. I was breathing 10, 11, 12 breaths after every rep after 30, and I couldn't recover. But because they were squats, the bar was on me. Every moment it was on me. my body was supporting those squats. I was about to get into a thing, into an internet fight I was in, but I'm too mature for that. 4 or 5 minutes under a load is going to make your body respond, okay? In the Easy Strength Omni book, I talk about one other big thing too, is what's cool about the back squat anyway, is you don't use your hands. I mean, you do, they're here, but even when I back squatted heavy, I barely even had my hands on the bar because, as an Olympic lifter, you teach yourself, that's what you're doing. And so my hands would be here just to make sure nothing slid around. But, if you look at homunculus, man, you'll notice that the hands are huge on this guy. It's the nerve, the amount your brains and nerves work at certain areas. Terrible explanation, but we're not worried about it. So if I'm doing high rep deadlifts, I'm squeezing the entire time, and my body's going to kick in at the snake brain level and say, hey man, this is dangerous stuff, let go. With the squat, the feedback from the hands are, we're doing just fine. The feedback from the eyes are, well, I'm just looking down at a massive pool of my own sweat, so I must be doing aerobics. That's why it's so good. The time and retention is there. That's why. And there's 600 muscles in the body. I don't teach that way, but I don't know of a muscle in your body that's not going to work sometime in that set of 50 squats with 225, 102.5 kilos. The other exercise I think goes well with high rep squats are dips, and dips are wonderful because, again, even though your hand is on the dipping bar, you're not really using your hands. My friend Brian Gwaltney made some real progress with his upper body hypertrophy by doing handstand push-ups, handstand press-ups. And again, even though your hands are on the ground, you're not gripping, you're not working, they're just spreading and supporting. Do I have anything else to tell you to not do instead of squats? Well, I've heard people try to do high rep trap bar deadlifts to build hypertrophy. My friend, the late great Lane Cannon of blessed memory, I tell you, he died way too young. Complications of a shoulder surgery. Terribly sad. He would do high rep trap bar deadlifts, 20 reps with 405. If you were to do that plus dips, that might be a pretty good hypertrophy program. But I got to tell you one thing, every single one of those trap bar deadlifts better be pretty good. And I got to tell you, Ryan, and don't tell anybody else. So everybody else listening, stop listening. I hate squats too. I do. High rep squats, they're the worst. But here's what I tell you, Ryan, and keep this between us. The farthest I ever threw the discus was in a summer where I decided to chase high rep squats again. And basically all I did was high rep squats and incline dumbbell work. And I threw the discus the farthest I ever had. A couple weeks later, I could barely walk up a flight of stairs, but man, I was big and I could throw far, but it was great. So, okay, the rest of you can listen again. I hope I answered your question. High rep back squats and dips, or try this trap bar idea and dips, okay? Is it perfect? No, but it's not bad. And I got to tell you, folks, remember, not bad is better than 99% of the crap you'll do in your life. Okay, Matt asks a question that I think is really good, and maybe some of you won't think it's good, but I really like it. Matt's reading my book, Now What?, which I really think that intervention, Can You Go and Now What, are, if those you want it, otpbooks.com. You can also get them on Amazon, but you won't get all the special stuff with it. I think those are my best books. The university I work at, the student athletes are using Now What, and they're sharing. They had one copy that I'd given to one of my athletes, and they're all sharing the book around now. So I went up one day and I gave them all, copies, which is kind of a fun thing. But now what's a good book? Okay, sorry. And as with all your work, I've found many useful nuggets of wisdom throughout. That brings me to why I'm writing you today. I've worked part-time as a personal trainer and strength coach alongside my full-time marketing role for several years. I recently moved to a new state, which is bringing my marketing role to an end and prompting me to go all in on my fitness and health career at age 37. I recently accepted a personal trainer role in my city's parks and recreation department. Do you know Leslie? No, she works at Parks and Rec, and fine young woman. There's also a guy there, Ron Swanson, who I have respect for, but my favorite person is Tommy Halford. And I'm also enrolled in massage school, which I'm going to use to supplement my coaching. Okay. As with any big life transition, I'm excited about the possibilities that lie ahead, but I'm also racked with anxiety about the unknown. I'm wondering if you can offer any words of encouragement and advice as I embark on this next phase of my life. Well, yeah, I mean, transitions are really what life is all about. Yeah, it's interesting, Matt, in the last few years, I've gone through some massive transitions. My whole life got turned upside down it would seem like a blink of an eye, about 1.5 years overall. And I understand it. And what helped me a lot is, of course, I have a thing called the Inner Circle, which is my formal, if you're interested, email the podcast and they'll send podcast@danjohnuniversity.com. But there's a place online you can sign up. It's called, I think it's Inner Circle, and it's got my name, but I don't know it for sure. But it's, we do it twice a year. And I got to tell you, for all I give at the Inner Circle, I get more. But the other thing I want you to think about is intentional community. Each day, as everyone in the world knows, at 9:30 at my house, people just show up to train with me. And it's an intentional community. And we all show up together to work together. On Saturdays, I have a financial intentional community, and we sit down and we share our mistakes and books we read and ideas and all kinds of things like that to improve our financial well-being. And the first thing I'd like you to think about is make sure you get yourself into some kind of community that supports your transition. And I don't know what that's going to be. Now, it's easy, in certain faith traditions, you go to your denomination and you're welcome. That would have been a lot more true, in some churches 60, 70 years ago. I know this, if you go into a gym, you start doing kettlebells. I know this, if you Olympic lift, and there's other Olympic lifters, you're in, you're on the team. You got a t-shirt and you're going to lift in a meet in 3 weeks. That was my experience. But otherwise, I want to give you some advice. My friend TJ, TJ's a good dude. He trains with me and he's part of my financial group. About a week ago, and I put it in my Wandering Weights newsletter. By the way, I don't know where you get Wandering Weights, but I'm sure if you go to danjohnuniversity.com, there has to be a link in there you can sign up for Wandering Weights. And please do it. It's free. People say it's pretty good. I got all kinds of stuff in there, and I share, and I take it very seriously. And we're getting close to 1,000 editions, I think, and there is all kinds of great stuff that you might want to look at. But what TJ said is, he said, here's the best stuff I've learned in our financial group, and I'm going to share with you what he said. And I wrote about it in the Wandering Weights. But the first thing he said, the thing that helped him the most was this concept we use in both the weight room. By the way, folks, finances, at least if you're an American, and fitness have all the same rules for success. Little and often over the long haul. Don't dig a hole so deep you can't get out of it, that kind of thing. But word number one, the word we use a lot is enough. I use it as a throws coach all the time. If you're an elite discus thrower, you can be world class with the following lifts: a 250-pound snatch, 300-pound clean, 450 back squat, and a 400-pound bench. I know a lot of you think those are big numbers, but to me, those are like, yeah, of course. But here's the thing. If you do those numbers, but you're not throwing international distances, your problem isn't in the weight room. Your problem is out there. Your arousal control isn't good enough. Your technique isn't good enough. Your tactics and strategies, how you approach meet conditions, your discipline. There's something else. It ain't the weight room, your problem. It's something else. So that's what enough does for you. We use a concept from Nick Peterson called bumpers. So in my journal, I write the date, and then I write my day. I weigh in every day, and then I have 2 bumpers. My body weight bumper is 217 to 227. Interesting, I weigh 214 right now, but I'm afraid of lowering my bumpers down too much because I don't want to lower my bumpers down and then, have a Super Bowl or Christmas or Thanksgiving or a wedding surprise where my weight bumps back up and then, I'm a bad person again. I had my bumpers at 218 to 228 for 2 years before I lowered them 1 pound to 217 to 228. Next to that is my monthly financial goal. And I got to tell you, folks, that range, my high number and my low number are still really big numbers. What I expect to make every month is more than I was paid my first year as a school teacher. That's what I expect to earn every month. And the other number is much bigger than that. And I work hard to get to those numbers. And I work hard to get to 214. I fast and I do all, I exercise and I eat a lot of protein and eat a lot of fruit. But you got to decide what's enough for you. So when it comes to finances, what's enough? When it comes to your body fat, what's enough? And then you put a range on it. And as long as you're between those numbers, that's enough. If I have an extraordinary month, and I had a couple of them last year, a couple of really good months, both on the financial side and on the physical side. And what you do on those really good months is you do this, like right now, I'm at 214 and my bumper is 217. So I'm 3 pounds below my low bumper. 217 to 227, I'm at 214. Well, you fold your arms and you go, isn't that great? And you don't change your bumpers, you nod your head, and you just keep on keeping on. If you're below your bumper, in my case, if I was to get back up to my heaviest ever is 273 as a Highland gamer. I competed best Olympic lifters at 242, 110 kilo class, 105 kilo class. Say I got up to 105 kilos, 231 again, I'd have to say, okay, this doesn't match, and this will be the next thing we talk about. The third thing we talk about. This doesn't match what I truly believe. We'll get to that in just a second. So the first thing I want you to think about is what's enough in your life. What's enough? I only use those 2, but I have maybe some other areas of my life where there's enough. Certainly when it comes to vacations, I think there's a number that's enough. I don't know if I'd want to go to Disneyland for 6 straight months. Could you imagine it? You check into the Disneyland hotel and eat a character breakfast every day, and then you get that big turkey leg for lunch, and then you go to my favorite place in Disneyland. It's over in California Adventure. It's the wine place, and then you have an Italian meal. And that's great today and tomorrow. 6 months of that, you'd be kind of like, it's time to move on. Enough is pretty, you figure it out. I look sometimes online, I look at some of these female fitness professionals. I'm like, man, who's going to walk in and say to you, that's enough. You're lean enough, and your surgeon has done enough. That was catty, and I apologize. Saucer milk, table 1, please. The next one is this. If you don't know what you want, figure out. If you don't know what you want, figure out what you don't want. I say this a different way in our group. It's funny, I prep myself for this because I always get misty-eyed when I talk about the following things, so I have to be careful here. I'm 68, and I think we have an assignment in the inner circle called the 2-decade assignment, and I think 2 decades from now, what don't you want, Danny? I'll be 88, and I'll tell you what it is, and I'll try not to get misty-eyed when I say it. And it's funny because my daughter Kelly's picture is right there. Kelly says to me, "Oh, look, Dad, there's bingo on Wednesdays," because they're putting me in the home. And that's not what I want. So what that does for me, by not wanting that mat, that means I can't walk around at 273. That means I can't be doing plyometric depth jumps off of my roof. It means I buckle up. It means I double check when I walk on an icy sidewalk. It means I eat fruit and protein and drink water and get a lot of sleep and keep my relationships solid. And I play trivia with my we're on a trivia team over here, and quiz night for my European friends. And I read good books, and I write about things. I retyped this entire book and I made comments on almost every single sentence in there. I wrote 250,000 words on this book, The Sword and the Stone. I mean, I did it for no reason. There's no money in it, and the number of people on the planet Earth who cared about it are very few. But I kept my mind sharp, my mind working. This podcast in my inner circle and all my communities, they keep my mind working. If I do have a lapse of memory or something like that, I don't say, I just say, okay, ease up. You have a million balls in the air, relax. And generally I find them. What don't I want? I don't want to be waddling down the street. I don't want, I want to look good. I want to feel good. I want to move good. So I know what I want. But if you don't know that, figure out what you don't want. I'm getting kind of fired up here. I got to be a little bit careful. The next one I learned from Pat Ides, IDES. He's a great man. And he sat me down when I was going through the dark night of the soul. And he gave me an assignment. And the assignment was, what are your values? And it's funny because 3 of them are just so true. Fitness, order, and generosity. And I call it FOG. And when I get confused in life, I use fog to raise me out of the fog. Okay, a little joke. Somebody the other day on one of the websites said that they're going to use my values. And I didn't correct them or anything, but you really can't use anybody else's values. There's hundreds of words that can be values, but those 3 really represent my life. I mean, let's, as my father used to say, let's be honest. I mean, I got this book in 1965 about weightlifting. You think fitness is a big deal to me? When you look behind here, it might look crazy to y'all, but there is a complete order to everything behind me. That's discus throwing. Those are my books going into Clarence Bass, going into the books that I love the most. There's your Dragon Door books, sliding the books that changed my life. That's interesting. The anti-cancer book is there. That must mean something to me. And then, of course, on top is Strength and Health. I'm looking and I can tell you why every book is in every place. Fitness, order, and generosity. I don't want to pat myself in the back too much, but recently I was given an award at my alma mater for my generosity and contributions. And it meant a lot to me because helping the next generation of throwers get better at the Utah State University fits completely in my vision of the universe. The 4th one is, and it's interesting as I'm saying this, I don't know if it will be out by the time this comes out. I have a new book out, available on Amazon. It's how I judge things. I give A's, B's, C's, and F's to things. I don't want to take the time to explain it now, but I do talk about it in a lot of my workshops. And as a favor, Matt, if that's something you want more on, ping the podcast at danjohnuniversity.com. Tell Ozzy to rush this to the top of the heap, and I'll go over how I judge things. And the last one, and I'm not going to say it because a lot of parents listen to this podcast in their car, but one thing that's helped me a lot in my life, and I'll just use the word F. It's a 4-letter word, and you can guess what it means, but it's FU money. And when TJ explained it, he said, it's nice to be in a place in your life where when someone says, you're going to do this, and you can just lean back and say, no, I'm not. And you don't have to say the phrase. I did once, and I love it. But I get calls, I'll get invited to these workshops, and they'll have all these, like, I got invited to do a workshop in Southern Florida. And they said I could only spend $400 on flights. Folks, I live in Utah. Okay, maybe you can get a flight from Salt Lake to Orlando for $400, but I'm not. That's a I don't know what, 3 a.m, I guess. And then they only gave me one night's hotel room. I'm flying, and I looked at it. I said, you got to, and they would, and it was like and I was doing it gratis. I was doing it as a favor, and I finally said, no, I'm not going to do it. And they were like, oh, we can change things. No, I work for a thing, and they said basically, we need to have a conversation. And I hate that phrase. So I said, no, thank you, is what we'll say for our listening audience. That's the advice I would give you. The idea, figure these things out as you go through. For example, you might quickly find out that being a massage therapist is a much more friendly career for you with your time and your energy and your commitments. Or you might just say, this Parks and Rec job is the best thing I've ever done in my life. I don't care. Either way, you run those 5 points through your head, and I think you'll find some clarity. I know I went way too long on this, but obviously, you trusting my opinion means the world to me, my man. Means the world to me. When I went through my life transition, those are the 5 lessons I learned most clearly. And I'm on the other side of it now, mostly, almost pretty much. And I got to tell you, those are hard-earned lessons I just gave you. And if I could help you or anyone else in our listening audience, I just want to thank you so much. Okay? Thank you. Our last question comes from Sean, and it's a radically different question than this one. And I don't want to answer it, and Ozzy knows I don't want to answer it. Sean says this: what do you think of single-leg kettlebell Romanian deadlifts? I've been using them on my hypertrophy day, and they light up my glutes more than any other hinge variation. And as a kettlebell trainer, it allows me to do another loaded hinge in addition to my swing on my power day. Good. That is great. Listen, generally deadlifts with kettlebells are a fool's errand. They're not heavy enough. Yes, they're fine for teaching, but only if you're teaching people who are either have extremely long arms or extremely built low to the ground. My knock on the single kettlebell work only comes because a good friend of mine destroyed his career doing the exercise. Now, I'll give you a hint for back safety. First and foremost, so let's say your left leg is down and your right leg is moving back. Don't let that foot open up like you're a dog going to go pee-pees on a fire hydrant. Drive the heel straight back. Your butt cheeks should not turn and twist. I should be able to put 2 tequila shots on your butt during the whole exercise, and they should stay balanced there. If one side pops up, I think you're putting that lower back into trouble. And I'm telling you, it ruined the guy's career. I don't know. I reached out to him a while ago to check in on him, got no return, but I guess we're talking about a dunzo. We had a park and recreation question on this one, so I'm quoting Tom. Dunzo, his whole career, dunzo. Still, years later, hurting from this. I'm no expert on this, and I know I'm no expert on this, but I listened closely to Stu McGill, and I think his book, The Gift of Injury, is one of the best rehab books ever written, but it's also one of the most insightful and philosophical books on my field ever written too. I don't understand it as well as I could, but there's a concept called shearing force, and it doesn't take much to put your body in a situation where things just go. So if you're doing the single leg kettlebell Romanian deadlift, I'm begging you a couple things. First, if your left leg is down, LFD in my language, I'd like the bell to be in the right hand and the right hand only. I'd like you to keep your chin up. As that right leg pushes back, I'd like you to lead with the heel. And if you have to, left leg is down, right heel's back. Turn your the toes of your right foot in towards your left foot as you push back to insist that those butt cheeks don't suddenly jump. And if something goes wrong, let go of the bell. Okay? So, Sean, I'm glad you liked the exercise. Please do it correctly. And please, all of you listening, I love single arm upper body work. And I'm not a fan of lower body, single legs, and all that other stuff. Only because when something goes bad, it goes bad so quickly. If I miss a single arm press, it just kind of goes here, If I do something crazy with the Bulgarian, what do we call it now? I saw a thing the other day, it's a couple of years ago. So the word fress, F-R-E-S-S, is insect poop. But we have an exercise called fress now, which is you rear elevated foot something or other. And I looked at it and I thought they were talking about insect poop. But I'm just not a fan of them. I'm not saying you can't do them. This is important. I don't know why that if I have an opinion, anyone even pays attention. I have very strong political opinions. And if I was to say, okay, you guys, vote the way I say, why would you do that? That would be the exact opposite of what voting's all about. I don't like certain exercises. I don't do them. I don't have my athletes do them. I'll turn my back and I'll see my athletes doing dumb things. My All-American has been injured several times in a rock climbing accident, on a mountain bike, and trying to do the exercise program that I shall not mention that involves going until you hurt yourself. And she did. So you can do what you want, but please don't email me after that something like you are right and I have to do a GoFundMe for you to get, to pay your hospital bills. Wow, that was a good rant. Listen, folks, that's it for today. I enjoyed this episode a lot. Episode 287, boy, we're sneaking up on 300. 300. Ooh. And if you have questions, I want you to email them to me at podcast@danjohnuniversity.com. Each and every week, I sit down here and answer your questions. And until next time, let's all keep on lifting and learning. Thank you.